Imagine walking into a store with absolutely no intention of buying anything. Maybe you're just killing time. Maybe you're only there to look. 20 minutes later, you're walking out carrying a shopping bag, wondering what just happened. Now here's the strange part. What if I told you there's a good chance that decision wasn't entirely yours? Not because anyone forced you, not because the product was irresistible, but because someone quietly influenced your brain long before you ever reached for your wallet. Every year, companies spend billions of dollars trying to answer one question. How do we make people buy more without making them feel like they're being sold to? And after decades of research in psychology, behavioral economics, and neuroscience, they've discovered something unsettling. Humans don't make decisions the way we think we do. We like to believe we're rational. We compare prices, we weigh the pros and cons, we make logical choices. But in reality, our brains rely on shortcuts, mental hacks, invisible biases. And once you understand those shortcuts, you'll start seeing them everywhere. On Amazon, at Costco, inside Apple stores, even on Netflix. But here's the biggest twist. None of the techniques you're about to learn work because you're unintelligent. They work because your brain evolved to save energy, and the companies that understand that win. So the question isn't, are companies manipulating us? The real question is, how often are they influencing us without us even noticing? Let's travel back nearly 50 years, before smartphones, before online shopping, before targeted ads followed you across the internet. Researchers began noticing something fascinating. People consistently made irrational decisions. Not once, not occasionally, but predictably, again and again and again. Traditional economics had always assumed people behaved logically. If something cost more than it was worth, they wouldn't buy it. Simple. Except, real life didn't work that way. People bought luxury handbags they didn't need, expensive coffee when cheaper coffee tasted almost identical, streaming subscriptions they barely used, gym memberships they forgot existed. Why? Because we don't buy based only on value, we buy based on perception, emotion, context, comparison, and expectations. That discovery gave birth to an entirely new field, behavioral economics, and businesses paid very close attention. Because suddenly, buying wasn't just about making better products, it was about understanding the human mind. Today, every major company employs teams of behavioral scientists, UX researchers, consumer psychologists, and data analysts, all trying to answer one question. What tiny change can increase sales? Sometimes, the answer is surprisingly small. Changing one word, one color, one button, or simply changing the order in which you see prices. And that's where our story begins. Imagine you walk into a luxury clothing store. The first jacket you see costs $2,500. Your immediate reaction? That's ridiculous. A few minutes later, you notice another jacket. It's $480. Suddenly, it feels reasonable, maybe even affordable. But ask yourself something. Did the second jacket actually become cheaper? Of course not. Your brain simply changed its reference point. This is called anchoring. The first number you encounter becomes an unconscious benchmark. Everything after it gets judged relative to that first number, not on its actual value, but on comparison. Companies know this, and they use it everywhere. Take Apple. Every time Apple launches a new flagship iPhone, they often introduce the most expensive Pro Max configuration first during presentations, over $1,500 in some markets. By the time they mention a lower-priced model, it suddenly feels much more reasonable. Even if it's still incredibly expensive, the higher price wasn't just there to sell the premium phone. It changed how your brain evaluated every other option. Real estate agents do something similar. They intentionally show buyers an overpriced house first, not because they expect it to sell, but because every house afterward feels like a better deal. Restaurants love anchoring too. Ever notice an outrageously expensive steak sitting at the top of the menu? Maybe hardly anyone orders it, but that's not its real job. Its job is making the $65 steak seem reasonable, compared to $150. $65 suddenly feels like a bargain, even though it's still $65 for dinner. Anchoring doesn't change reality. It changes perception, and perception often becomes reality inside our minds. But here's something even stranger. What if companies could convince you to buy, simply by making you believe something might disappear, even if it wasn't actually running out? That tactic generated billions in sales, and it preys on one of the oldest survival instincts humans have. Thousands of years ago, scarcity meant survival. Food, water, shelter. If resources were disappearing, acting quickly could save your life. Our brains never lost that instinct. Companies simply found a way to borrow it. Picture yourself shopping online. You see the perfect hotel, then suddenly, a message appears. Only 2 rooms left. Or, 15 people are viewing this property. Your heartbeat rises just a little. You weren't in a hurry before. Now, you are. Booking websites have used variations of these messages for years because urgency changes behavior. Instead of asking, "Do I really need this?" your brain starts asking, "What if I lose it?" That tiny shift changes everything. Limited edition sneakers, seasonal Starbucks drinks, Disney's historically limited time content releases, holiday product drops, Costco rotating inventory, all rely to different degrees on the same principle. People value things more when they believe they're difficult to get. Supreme built an entire business model around this idea. Tiny product drops, limited quantities, huge demand. Products selling out within minutes, then being resold for several times the original price. The product didn't magically become more useful. It became more exclusive, and exclusivity creates desire. Tesla once accepted reservations for vehicles months, even years before many customers received them. Waiting itself became part of the story. Owning the product signaled that you had something others couldn't easily get. Scarcity doesn't just sell products, it sells status. But there's another layer. Sometimes scarcity is real, sometimes it's manufactured, and as a consumer, it's often difficult to tell the difference. That's exactly why it works. Now imagine you're about to buy a product. You know nothing about it. No reviews, no recommendations, no expert advice. Would you still feel confident? Probably not. Because humans rarely make important decisions alone, and companies know exactly how to use that instinct. In 1951, psychologist Solomon Asch ran one of the most famous experiments in history. Participants entered a room expecting a simple vision test. The answer was obvious. Which line matched the sample? Easy. Except everyone else in the room intentionally gave the wrong answer. Something incredible happened. Many participants ignored their own eyes and agreed with the crowd. Not because they were blind, because fitting in felt safer than standing alone. That instinct never disappeared. It simply moved online. Every 5-star review, every bestseller badge, every 1 million customers served, every influencer holding the latest gadget, every viral TikTok product. They're all sending the same subconscious message. Other people trust this, so maybe you should too. Amazon understood this better than almost anyone. Customer reviews became one of the platform's greatest competitive advantages. When thousands of strangers independently recommend the same product, our brains interpret that as evidence, even though we may never meet those people. Netflix displays top 10 in the US today. Spotify highlights what's trending. Restaurants proudly advertise America's favorite. McDonald's has long emphasized the billions of burgers sold, not because the exact number changes the taste, but because popularity itself becomes persuasive. Our ancestors survived by learning from the tribe. Today, companies have become experts at showing us where the tribe appears to be going. But what if I told you, the most powerful trick isn't convincing you to buy one product, it's convincing you to compare it with another product that was never meant to be purchased at all. And once you see that strategy, you'll never look at pricing the same way again.